would leave.
I wouldn't leave either.
Is America the greatest country in the world?
You're going to go into that building an American, and you're going to come out a Canadian.
I'm going to go into that building an American, and I'm going to come out a Canadian.
One of the things that's interesting in America, a lot of young people are becoming conservative.
Why are illegal immigrants more important than homeless people sleeping on the streets? Why, if one of the biggest economies here in California take care of illegal immigrants, but our people are sleeping on the streets?
Being a conservative more today is more like being a rebel. It's like bucking this system.
The Democrat Party does not put our people first.
Across the ocean just to find the grave. Sacrifice your own boys for a lie. Listen.
President Donald Trump, I need you to consider making an executive order to take African American off of every application known to man in the United States of America. I'm American. You're American. They're American.
America doesn't know how to succeed without conflict. When growth slows, the answer isn't building at home, it's intervention abroad. Wars become business, weapons become exports, instability becomes strategy. Real power comes from building something people want to be a part of, not from forcing the world to fall in line. And that's the difference. China builds, America interferes. China has infrastructure America could only dream of. I mean, look at this.
Here's everything that happened in America in the last 12 hours. A massive explosion and fire tore through the Valero oil refinery in Port Arthur, Texas, shutting down the 380,000 barrel per day facility and triggering a shelter-in-place order for Westside residents. Minor injuries were reported. The Senate confirmed Markwayne Mullin as DHS secretary on a near-party line vote, with Fetterman and one other Democrat joining Republicans to end the 36-day agency shutdown. The Trump administration paid nearly $1 billion to Total Energies to abandon 2 offshore wind farm leases off the East Coast and redirect investment into U.S. fossil fuel projects instead. A civil jury ordered Bill Cosby to pay $19 million to former waitress Donna Motzinger after finding he sexually assaulted her in 1972 following an invitation to one of his comedy shows. A historic 1892 Georgia courthouse was destroyed by fire while undergoing renovations, sending thick plumes of smoke into the sky. Everyone evacuated safely, and the cause remains under...
My point in this next clip is Chuck Schumer, who has spoken out hundreds of times publicly on the record and knows it because it's recorded about the danger of Iranian military facilities to the United States and the region. He's on video talking about it. He's asked a simple question about military facilities in Iran. Is it good we took them out or not? Check this out.
Is it a good thing that Iran, and I think you would agree with me, epicenter of terrorism in the world since 1979, is it good that their military infrastructure is being degraded to the degree that it is? Yes or no?
It's you can't, because it's a premature question. You can't.
It's collapsed 96 to 97% since the Federal Reserve was created, which is not federal, nor is it reserve. The number one currency in the world has collapsed 96 to 97%. There's your hint. Now do you see why silver's at an all-time high? Now do you see why gold's at an all-time high?
You want to see what America First really means in this Congress? Let's talk about what Republicans did last night on the heels of Veterans Day in the House Rules Committee. Every single Democrat on that committee voted yes to helping Americans. Every single Republican, all 8 of them, voted no. And here's exactly what they said no to. Vote 195. Democrats tried to fast-track a motion to consider a measure extending enhanced premium tax credits to keep healthcare affordable for working families. Republicans voted it down, 8 Republicans to 4 Democrats. They didn't even want the House to consider it. Vote 196, they voted down an amendment to repeal $186 billion in cuts to SNAP. That's food assistance for families, kids, seniors, and veterans. You know, the people they call lazy, while corporations hoard record profits. 8 Republicans voted no, 4 Democrats voted yes, and the amendment failed. They looked at those families right in the face and said, nah, No, we're keeping the cuts. Vote 197. Democrats said, fine, at least make sure SNAP benefits don't stop if the government shuts down again. Republicans voted no, 8-4, because they want the shutdown pain to fall on the poor, not the powerful. 198. Representative Schultz tried to restore $51.7 billion for the Toxic Exposures Fund, the money that helps veterans who were poisoned by burn pits and Agent Orange. And on the day after Veterans Day, Republicans voted against it, 8-4. Every single one. After that pretty little speech yesterday. Vote 199, Hakeem Jeffries offered an amendment to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies for 3 more years. Healthcare for Americans. Republicans said no, 8-4.
What's the bigger threat to America, the Democrats or Vladimir Putin?
I believe the Democrats for sure.
Why do you say that?
They're straight dumbasses. They do everything that's not right for America. How are you going to be against pro-America stuff and you want Americans to vote for you? Are you stupid? They support the illegals more than they support their own citizens. They out there supporting men and women's sports. They're supporting kids that have the sex changes. You got to be a real dumb mother to be supporting some shit like that. And then I think that domestic terrorists, because they're blatantly just disrespecting the law. Who are protecting them? The Illuminati or some shit? I'm gonna say exactly what Democrats are. They are narcissists. Look at narcissists and you're gonna see a picture of a goddamn Democrat in that motherfucker, because they project, they gaslight, they do all this bullshit, man. We need to do away with the narcissists in this world.
You don't have to love Trump. You don't even have to like him. The issue isn't Trump anymore. It is that the left hates him more than they love America. They would rather watch the country fall apart than admit it ever did anything right. They cheer when things go wrong, when prices rise, when chaos fills the streets, just so they can say, see, we told you, Trump was bad. That's not patriotism. That is bitterness, and it is dangerous. Because evil isn't just doing wrong. Evil is hoping your own nation collapses just to prove a political point. America doesn't fall because of one man. It falls because too many people would rather see it fail than see their opponent succeed. You don't have...
Top 10 politicians who fucked over the American people. Number 10, Nancy Pelosi. Pushed $5 trillion in relief bills, adding $3 trillion to debt, while 60% of small businesses got no aid. Number 9, Joe Biden. His $1.9 trillion rescue plan spiked 9.1% inflation, raised $12,000 extra, a burden 65% of voters slammed. Number 8, Mitch McConnell. Backed $1.9 trillion in tax cuts for the rich, leaving 70% of workers with stagnant wages despite promises. Number 7, George W. Bush. His $3 trillion Iraq war, based on false WMDs, lost 4,500 Americans and drained taxpayer wallets. Number 6, Barack Obama. His $800 billion stimulus added $8.3 trillion to debt, with only 3% for jobs, leaving 8 million unemployed. Number 5, Alejandro Mayorkas. Allowed 8 million border crossings, costing $150 billion yearly, overwhelming cities and 67% of voters. Number 4, Paul Ryan. His $1.9 trillion tax cuts bloated deficits, giving 83% of benefits to the top 1%, screwing the middle class. Number 3, Hillary Clinton. Her private email server hid 33,000 emails, eroding trust, and her $145 million donor ties fueled elite favoritism. Number 2, Chuck Schumer. Pushed $3 trillion in spending bills, claiming deficit neutral, but added $2 trillion to debt, hitting taxpayers hard. Number 1, Kamala Harris. Dodged the border crisis as czar, letting 8 million migrants strain resources, fucking over 70% of pissed-off Americans. Comment who the biggest letdown was and follow for more fucked-up history. Top 10 politicians who fucked over the American people.
What's
Number
up,
10,
public message?
Nancy Pelosi. Pushed $5 trillion in relief bills, adding $3 trillion
One of the most offensive things to Americans is that all this was being done and all this money was being spent while they were denying money to people that clearly needed it.
$5.5 million to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex advocacy in Uganda.
Yes, sir.
I can't believe we're arguing about this.
Like particularly victims of natural disasters like Maui.
I can't believe we're arguing about this. We're not denying life-saving care to anybody, are we?
The fact that they're spending all this money on those things, and yet they gave those people a one-time check of $770. One of the
There is no plan to save the world or a 4D chess game being played.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. America is collapsing. There's no way you can stop it. Nothing
I
you
ain't
can
make
do.
the list up.
Marjorie Taylor Greene
They
stepping
made the
down
list
was a
up.
sign. The show's over. There's no 5D chess. There's no master plan. They're letting people wake up now because it's too late. And because they're training the AI with our data. Every post, every video, every reaction, that data is building the system they're going to use against us. All the crises we went through, all the pandemics, everything. This was all engineered by them. It was a setup. They've been building their control grid. For example, that thing that they pulled in 2020, that was their last big cash grab before they flipped the switch to digital. They've already drained the system. Now they're locking it. You know what happens when people lose trust in the government? That's when the empire collapses. And we're there right now. We do not trust the government. Nobody does. So you can't fix it. The trust will never be rebuilt again. It's over. And capitalism, it ends when a few elites own everything. That's just what happens. Capitalism ends when a few people control everything. While they keep the rest of the people chasing money, buying junk, watching rich people tell us how to get rich. It's all a scam. Consumerism is slavery. Like, you realize that when we see rich people now, we're like this close to wanting to eat them. You get that, right? We're like right there. We're gonna eat them soon.
When was America last great?
For me, I would say the turning point for our country was 1913, when we passed the 17th Amendment. And what's
So like back when like women couldn't vote?
Yeah, well, back up, but again, let's
Like that
go
was
back.
that's kind of your sweet spot right there.
Absolutely.
What year was America great?
When it was founded.
Except for the slavery stuff.
Except for the slavery stuff, you know?
I think we were probably our strongest.
You know, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Whether I free it, take it, I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation.
Oh.
They were for a long time. Very violent leaders.
What?
Castro was a very violent leader. His brother's a very violent leader.
The audacity of America in the process of starving the Cuban population right now, 11 million people living on this island, their energy grid just collapsed today. The audacity for the guy responsible for that bloodshed to turn around and be like, it's the Cuban leadership that's violent, actually. Insane.
Cuba's electrical grid has suffered a complete and total collapse. This is according to the country's power operator. It's the first nationwide blackout since the U.S. effectively shut off the flow of oil to Cuba.
David Adler says we're laying siege to the island of Cuba, turning off the lights in homes, hospitals, and the country's most critical infrastructure. These are war crimes, lethal, cruel, and criminal acts of collective punishment. It is sociopathy dressed up as foreign policy. I cannot explain to you how cruel this is and how banal it is treated as. This is a war crime that has been ongoing for the past 3 months now. And what blows my mind is that most Americans are completely oblivious to it. They don't even care about it. Because at least with like the Iran situation, there is a negative impact that they can actually experience at home. With the Cuba situation, nothing. Cuba has never been a threat to us. Cuba has never been a threat to anybody else. Hard to believe that there is any justice that will ever...
This is why America is not a tech oligarchy. Front and center at President Trump's inauguration were America's tech moguls. Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk were separated from Trump only by his family. Their proximity to the president has led some to suggest that America is turning into a Silicon Valley-led oligarchy, or siligarchy, if you will. That includes the outgoing president.
Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America.
But this isn't really the case, and here's why. First, these technoligarchs aren't quite as economically influential as it might seem. Amazon, Meta, and Tesla make up around 1/10 of the value of all listed stocks in America. But their economic contribution is much more modest. Together, they account for just 1.8% of American GDP, rising to only 3.1% if you include Apple and Alphabet, whose bosses also attended the inauguration. Now, let's look at some actual oligarchies. In the 2000s, 24 Russian magnates employed nearly 20% of all workers and accounted for 77% of the country's industrial sales. And today in Hungary, Viktor Orban's cronies may control as much as 20 or 30% of the economy. Big tech is also...
No, we can't forget why Trump is doing any of this in the first place. It's not because he cares about the country, because he doesn't. He's letting his cronies run wild, pushing through extreme policies, gutting federal protections, and handing out favors to donors because he simply doesn't care what happens next. If it all collapses, so be it. If it completely decimates every agency, institution, and safeguard that holds this country together, he would be fine with that. He might even be pleased, because at the root of it all, this isn't about leading, it's about getting even. Trump is still obsessed with his 2020 loss. He believes America rejected, embarrassed, and humiliated him. And now that he's clawed his way back into power, he's not interested in fixing anything. He's here to punish. No, we can't.
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world.
So here Trump is saying that the attack on Venezuela is actually a good thing for Americans, that it is America first, mostly because of the vibes.
What's up, Alpha Omega?
Of the energy. Got it. Slightly different phrasing, very different meaning. Anyways, he's making the argument that it actually is America first.
Y'all hit that like button now. Don't feel ashamed.
Guess who disagrees with him? Yep. Did you get it right?
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America's going to be the poorest country in the world starting now. You're going to see the biggest crashes happening right now. So that's good for me because the price of gold and silver go up. So this time I went to the slums of Mumbai. What shocks most people is America never had slums like that. Today, slums are everywhere across America. The slums of Mumbai are spreading across America. So the big shift is Russia, China versus America, Europe. The Chinese are threatening to shift the yuan to gold. And if they do that, US dollar collapses. If that happens, America goes. So that's why I've been saying this is trash. It's commodities, silver and gold. So being a capitalist, I own gold mines and I own silver mines. So when the dollar crashes, I get richer.
Right. And that happens time and time again.
It's going to happen now. It's the biggest battle in history going on today. And the dollar is going to lose. America's...
You really gotta love some Americans. I mean, even when they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, they do the best to sound like they know what the fuck they're talking about. You'll see so many people who criticize Trump, but in his same seat wouldn't know what the fuck to do. Everybody's an economist now, but a lot of you motherfuckers can't manage a checkbook. Some of you don't even know how to write out a check still. A lot of you have been sitting with fucking debt the majority of your adult life. And it's just incurred interest, so you haven't really beat it down. You're just sitting there letting it pile up. But you're gonna tell this man what he's doing makes no sense on the money scale. What the fuck would you know?
History has been totally inverted. Human life started in the Americas but was reset. The world was reset several times. Eventually, so-called Atlantis fell and fractured into factions.
Somebody
After a
say he
major
has
reset,
money.
Civilization collapsed on the West Coast and there was a massive
But if
migration
he
east.
doesn't
America is
have
the original
God,
Rome, Greece,
he's
Egypt,
lost.
Israel,
Facts.
etc.
Amen. You can say that
Look at the
again.
Doeg Indians of the DC area. Look at
This
the
whole
Doeg
world
in the
is
Bible.
lost
Edom or Esau was
without
ruddy.
him.
Ruddy is copper colored. Red-brown. Many Edomites are listed as Negro on their birth and death certificates. Rome took over Greece, which was centered in Philadelphia, the original capital of the country. City Hall was built by the previous owners. There are no construction photos. The building was already completed before they put the scaffolding up. It is an old world building. Colonization happened inwardly first and then went into Europe. That's why we see so-called Roman architecture as far as China. Look, There are Noah equivalents or survivors of the flood for hundreds of cultures. Scots actually came from North America into Europe. The real Scots were like King Charles, so-called black. The original Scots weren't the lowlanders. They were the highlanders. The Bible is from the Americas. All the events in it were in the Americas. See? Some of the original copies are dedicated to King Charles. Look, King James brought us the Protestant Bible. King James was King Charles's grandfather. The Scots landed in Ireland first and brought the Gaelic Bible. The Bible of today is a quadruple paraphrase remix of the American autochthonous Bible. It got turned into the Sir Francis Bacon, Shakespearean, astro-theologian Bible that we see today, which was an effort to make the Sinite script seem like the original version of the history has.
Do you guys miss Trump?
Do I miss Trump?
Do you miss Trump? You miss 45?
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
We're all pro-fighter. It was
this,
fun,
this
right?
piece of shit we got in office right now, did you get that?
Here is something every American should pause and think about. And what is happening right now may determine whether that remains true for the next generation. US and Israeli militaries are hammering Iran for a second week. Iranian forces and proxies are striking back across the Middle East. When historians look back at this moment, they may not see it simply as a conflict about Iran, because what is unfolding right now could shape the global power struggle between the United States and China for decades to come. For generations, the foundation of American global power has been the US dollar. Oil is traded in dollars. Global banking flows through systems heavily influenced by the United States. And because of that, when Washington imposes sanctions, entire regimes can be cut off from the global economy almost overnight. China has spent years trying to weaken that system, quietly, strategically, and Iran became one of its testing grounds, because Iran was already isolated from Western financial networks.
We're America. We're the great.
The United States just made it a lot cheaper to leave America, and I'm not talking about free airfare. The State Department just slashed the fee to renounce your U.S. citizenship by nearly $2,000. Until now, it costs $2,350 just to give up your passport and no longer be an American citizen. Now, $450. That means if someone walks into a U.S. embassy overseas and say, I want to give up my citizenship, it just got a lot cheaper to do it. Who says inflation's going crazy? But before anybody gets too dramatic about this, renouncing your citizenship is very serious business. You lose your passport, you lose your right to live in the United States, and depending on your finances, there could even be some tax consequences. So yes, it's cheaper to give up American passport, but still one of the biggest legal decisions someone can make.
How do you fix America? You get...
The great American hoax is over, and Trump is there to oversee the dismembering of American empire. The U.S. is going to be isolated, it's going to withdraw, and it's going to be non-competitive globally. Like I said, this is all unavoidable. This would have happened with or without Trump. You've simply come to the end of your life cycle as a hegemonic superpower. And the decay and the decomposition that will follow is just part of the natural process. Trump can't be blamed for that, and he can't be given credit for any of this. But his job is to make you think that none of it's happening, even while it's happening right in front of your face. This is what Trump's main job is. Because look, for example, drill, baby, drill, right? Make America energy self-sufficient, et cetera, et cetera. Fire up all of the dormant oil wells and so forth in West Texas and so on. While simultaneously asking OPEC to lower oil prices, which of course means asking OPEC to increase production. Okay. The way that goes is increase production by OPEC, and if they do it, by the US as well, okay, then the oil price drops, and cheap oil floods the market, out of sync with demand, driving the price down even further. Now the price is too low for it to even be profitable for American producers to drill, to refine, or to...
The golden age of America is upon us. The golden age of America.
We never know if the next bill coming is the one that is going to put us in bankruptcy or make us lose our house.
Farmers are really hurting right now with the tariffs.
My kids' daycare went up.
Our insurance costs quadrupled in the past 2 months.
We're absolutely terrified about what these federal funding cuts could mean for our family. If they go through, Charlie, he could lose everything.
How much longer can you afford to live in your home?
1 month. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Hope that I don't wake up tomorrow.
No money left after their bills are paid. Pretty much just a whole bunch of financial mess.
Around 5 o'clock in the morning, ICE agents wearing masks and heavily armed broke into their home without a warrant, without an explanation.
We went from a $5,000 deductible to a $16,000 $1,400 deductible.
Renee Good is our sister. The deep distress our family feels because of Nay's loss is in such a violent and unnecessary way is complicated by feelings of disbelief, distress, and desperation for change.
Our nation is back.
I have a question for you guys who voted for the guy now living in the White House. Are you better off today than you were a year ago? Well, if you're a multimillionaire, things couldn't be better. But after a year of Trump, the rest of us are getting screwed. That's because he made a lot of promises, and he's broken every single one of them. Trump promised to end all wars.
I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars.
Promise broken. The killing continues in Ukraine. Gaza is a humanitarian disaster. He's threatening new wars, bombing Iran, attacking Venezuela, and threatening to invade Greenland. Trump promised to put America first.
I will very simply put America first.
Broken promise. Instead of using our resources to help average Americans, Trump gave Argentina a $40 billion bailout. He screwed over American ranchers by importing more beef from South America, and he wasted taxpayer dollars on an illegal attack against Venezuela. Trump promised to make our streets safer.
We will return law and order to our streets.
Promise broken. Trump has pardoned drug traffickers. He pardoned the violent insurrectionists who attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. And by the way, these criminals that he pardoned have committed murder. They have raped young women. They have molested children. And don't get me started about the masked, armed ICE agents that shot a young mother in the face 3 times and executed a VA ICU nurse. He promised to cut fraud, waste, and abuse.
We will end the ridiculous and actually incredible waste of taxpayer dollars.
Promise broken. Trump has added trillions to the national debt because of the tax cuts for multimillionaires and billionaires at your expense. At your expense. And don't get me started about fraud. I mean, he has profited off the White House with, crypto scams and shady backroom deals with oil executives and shaking down billions from corrupt dictators all around the world. And here's a big one. Trump promised to bring down costs.
Starting on day one, we will drive down prices and make America affordable again.
Broken
Man,
promise.
these gas
Despite
prices so
Trump's
high,
gaslighting, everyone knows costs have gone up.
you
But
can't
look
even
at
get
the
a whole
cost of
basket of
groceries.
groceries
They're sky
no more.
high. And the cost of health care is through the roof because he did nothing to help people afford their health insurance. And he's done not a thing to deal with the housing crisis, and people can't find affordable housing. Trump promised an...
We have to save America. There's never been a time like this. There's never been a time. What Joe Biden and the Pelosi Schumer Congress have done to our country in just 1 year is a travesty of the highest order.
Man, it's only been
Inflation
a
is
couple months.
skyrocketing. Gas
A
prices
couple
are
months into
soaring.
this new year, and look,
Supply chains are crumbling.
look how
Can you
this
believe
country
what's
is
happening?
being
You can't
ran
get
now.
anything. We have to save America. There's never been a time like this.
Somebody say
There's
God
never
bless
been a time.
President Trump.
What Joe Biden and the Pelosi Schumer Congress have done to our country in just
Somebody
1
say
year
liar.
is a travesty of the highest order. Inflation is skyrocketing. Gas prices are soaring. Supply chains are crumbling. Can you believe what's happening? You can't get anything. We have to save America. There's never been a time like this. There's never been a time. What Joe Biden and the Pelosi...
So these are the last few minutes of Deepu Chandra Das, a family man, a Hindu, accused of blasphemy with zero proof. He was dragged out of a police station with force. He was beaten by a mob of terrorists. He was hung, at which point he was burned alive. So just imagine your children in a town square looking at a man just get burned alive. That's their society. Do you understand yet what's coming to the West? This happened in Bangladesh. His crime was he was just a Hindu minority. This is what extremism looks like, folks. Okay? But fortunately, the world didn't ignore it. In the UK, Tom Morrison formally raised alarms about minority safety. In the US, Thomas Suzua pressed the State Department. Even Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, was contacted directly. So here's my question for you. Yes, we have a problem with low birth rate in the West. But is the answer mass migration from places where terrorist extremists burn Christian or Hindus alive in front of their children. And if India is our friend, why do we keep dismissing their warnings?
Where the hell are America's leaders? While Trump and his henchmen are stripping Americans of our constitutional rights, the nation's supposed leadership class is deathly silent, or worse, helping Trump. University presidents are silent or caving to Trump's demands. Republican leaders are rubber stamping his authoritarianism. Too many Democratic leaders are barely putting up a fight. The worst offenders are the leaders of some of America's most powerful and influential corporations. They stood up with the rest of America against Trump when he tried to overturn the 2020 election. But now they're silent about what Trump is doing to our democracy. Worse yet, they're enabling him in order to protect and pad their bottom lines. Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, recently said that he fully supports Trump and would welcome National Guard troops in San Francisco, a surprising turn for the billionaire who once...
Do you think this administration is doing enough to explain why they're doing what they're doing, how it's going, and how it ends?
You do not want this country, this regime, to have a nuclear weapon. We just don't want that to happen. And all the things they were doing to create an environment where they could get to a nuclear weapon with the missile sites, the launch sites.
This sound like the same playbook y'all ran in Iraq. Went in there and didn't find one bullet shell. Wasn't no weapons of mass destruction.
Said we are not going to let that happen because it's in the best interest of America, the best interest of our ally Israel and our other allies, the best interest of the world, and frankly, in the end, I think it's in the best interest of the Iranian people. That is the decision the president made, and he was willing to do it when previous administrations were entering into all kinds of agreements where they gave.
Is this something that shows us Israel is trying to make things worse in the region? They do want to assert that they are the only ones that you can successfully align with. And I think they're also perhaps suggesting that they want to bring the Gulf down a peg or two. They might be jealous of the relationship the Gulf had with the US. They might not be happy with things Qatar or others have done. And that I think they're trying to send the signal, get on board with the Greater Israel Project. It's your only option, but we will humiliate you in the process. Does America have a plan? Israel has a plan. But does America know? Does it think it can do Venezuela 2.0? Unlikely. What happens if the regime collapses? The spillover. So what next? Was it worth it? Was it worth it for your Gulf allies whose core interests you apparently...
If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you. If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you.
Well, this is Mike Bruce.
It's so easy for these people to just kill.
I've been playing games that claim they're going to pay you.
Killing.
Especially the Unity games.
The dark reason you should leave the United States if you can.
There is no point in living in the U.S. anymore. Everything is being inflated to the roof, and only a handful of Gen Zers are going to be able to purchase a home. The job market is scary. Graduates aren't getting
Brother,
hired.
stop being scared. Take the mask off.
Being laid off from their jobs. Almost all the food in our grocery stores are literal poison, and they are not fit for human consumption. And new gens will work their entire lives and save for absolutely nothing, because we are living paycheck to paycheck. The American dream now is...
I seen on the news where I was seeing a lot of Venezuelans being happy that he was court. Can you explain that, sir?
Yeah. It's called Propaganda 101. The people you see protesting were already set up by the U.S. to protest once they took him out of there. One thing the white man is, remember the scriptures say he's the most subtle beast in the field. He's better at convincing people and brainwashing and so forth than anybody else. There's no better manipulator on the planet than the white man. You saw groups of really Edomite-loving protesters already gathered together.
Rest assured to the American people, the recent increase in oil and gas prices is temporary, and this operation will result in lower gas prices in the long term.
You know, that's really weird because your own Department of Energy put out a report today that said gas prices, even by the end of 2027, wouldn't return back to where they were just a couple of weeks ago. So I guess I'm just curious if your own Department of Energy and your own EIA states what they stated today. Where are you getting your information from? If you're not getting it from your own experts.
I'm going to explain what the EIA is in simplified terms for those who don't know. It stands for Energy Information Administration. It's a U.S. government agency that tracks energy numbers, like gas prices, oil production, imports, exports, and how much fuel we have in storage. They don't set prices, they don't make policies, they don't pick sides. They just collect the numbers. They get their data through energy companies that are legally required to report their production. Refineries, oil companies, gas distributors, they all have to submit reports. And if they don't, there are penalties, which can be significant fines and potential federal enforcement action for false reporting. In other words, these aren't casual surveys. They are federally required filings. The EIA also pulls information from state agencies and import-export records. So when someone says gas prices are about to drop, the first place you want to check is the EIA. Because
you know how I can tell the country's fucked up right now? We haven't had an outside terrorist threat in a while. Ain't that wild, bro? You think Al Qaeda and ISIS might be going through layoffs right now? Like they over there talking at the meetings. It's like, I would like to do a mission. Please send me over there. We just have no work right now. We can't. They stopped outsourcing. They're insourcing. They're doing it. The white people are killing the white people. This everything. I would love to send you. I would love for you to have 72 versions, but we just do not need to waste the resources. They are already being killed. Who's doing the killing? ISIS. But with ISIS? No.
Today, we have 43 state delegates in the United States who are Muslim. If they want to run for Congress, we may end up with about 50 members of Congress in the next 6 years. That's really the essence of dismantling the system of injustice, is to replace it with the people who represent the Prophet Sallallahu.
Man, y'all ain't gonna be coming over here trying to take over
delegates
nothing.
in the United States who are Muslim. If they
What
want
y'all
to
trying to
run
do?
for Congress, we may end up with about 50 members of Congress in the next.
Hi. So I'm away, but there was no way I could come on here and tell you that the SAVE Act just passed in the House and it's moving on to the Senate. And if you're just listening to mainstream media or the typical party line, you might not even understand what a big deal this is and how dangerous it is to our entire country. The SAVE Act is a voter suppression bill dressed up as a voter protection bill. The people who wrote it are trying to trick you. And that starts with the very name of the bill. It is
Deception.
called the Save America Act. And who would vote against saving America? Well, everyone should want to.
Folks, I
Because
think this
isn't a voter
country
ID
been
bill that's being
compromised.
sold. It's an election takeover bill by the very people who are worried they're going to lose the election.
Got these
As written, this bill
politicians
accomplishes in
making
legislation
deals
what
and
Trump and his party have been
giving
unable to
bribes
accomplish in the
and
courts, which is the handing
taking
over
money
of our
behind
state voting
closed
rolls to
doors for
Kristi Noem's
favors.
Department of Homeland Security. Trump is currently in lawsuits with over 20 states to get their voter information.
I
He
want
just
my vote
marched
to
into
count.
Fulton County in Georgia to
Man,
take their voter information.
don't
But with the SAVE
anybody
Act, he
know by
doesn't have to
now
do any of
voting
that.
that
He
it
doesn't have
does
to fight
not
with
matter.
states to protect our votes in court
These people
because everything
are
will just get handed over to him,
selected,
and
not
then his
elected.
administration gets to decide who stays on
Whether
the voter
you
rolls
Democrat
and who
or
is flagged
Republican.
for removal.
It
They
hasn't
might
worked.
coordinate that list with all of the information they take from us on social media or all of the data they stole from us using Doge. Yeah, me too.
You vote for
And
this
not
guy,
only does this bill hand over all
end
of our
up
private voting information,
not getting
it
what you
also
voted for.
requires that most Americans present a passport or birth certificate in person to register to vote or to update their voter registration. Now, this isn't a Democrat or Republican thing.
The U.S. is a dying empire in many ways. In terms of moral authority, it's bankrupt. Its economy, $38 trillion in debt, bankrupt. The world is challenging the U.S. dollar domination. The United States is clinging to its status as the world's leading empire. China represents a serious economic threat Russia is leading in nuclear weapons. So the United States is desperately trying to cling to its
We're sitting here fighting Iran. Israel is going in the back door of Lebanon and snatching everything up at the south. Anything under the Litani River, Israel won. They have unalived 1,000 civilians and they've displaced 1 million civilians. They're pushing everybody up north of the Litani River. Israel claims they want this area by the Litani River to be a buffer area. This area is also occupied by the Houthis. At one point was occupied by Palestinians. The area above the Litani River stands over Israel. That is North Israel. They're able to attack Israel on site every time. There's also mountaintops so they can shoot down into Israel. By Israel claiming the south of Lebanon, it gives them more power and more leverage over Lebanon and other countries near Lebanon, like Syria. They're extending their power. Or we're sitting here fighting a fight we shouldn't have been in the first fucking place. This was all so they could backdoor Lebanon and take their land, unalive their civilians, destabilize their country. It's a fucking lackey to Israel. God, when will it be his time?
We're at an interesting moment in time because there is a very real possibility in the next 6 months we could see new governments in Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba. And if we end up with governments in those three countries that want to be friends with America rather than are enemies with America, that would be the biggest geopolitical shift since the fall of the Berlin Wall. Now let me be clear.
But it ain't
There's
gonna
1,000
happen.
ways that can go wrong. I'm not being Pollyannish and saying,
I'm just
everything's
sorry to
wonderful.
say it.
But on any objective level,
God has
the
got this
regimes there
world
are
under
weaker
divine
than they have
judgment
been in
right
our
now.
lifetimes. We're at an interesting moment in time because there is a very real possibility in the next.
No flying American flags in America, he said. Let me just get this straight. He said no flying American flags in America? We're in the same spot as yesterday where the cop told us that we were harassing people with the American flag in America. If you keep harassing people, you're going to go to jail. Get out of here. It may have been a bit of miscommunication, but all we're doing is
That's
spreading
intense.
patriotic positivity. We're gonna keep it short today. God bless you. I love you. Give me some, boys. Yeah, kind of. What's up, bro? There's an American flag flying over there. We're not using this moment to bash cops. The reason that we're out here is to show representation to the first responders and the people that put their life on the line for this country. He just said specifically that I was harassing people with the American flag, and I can't fly the flag in America. Which was the confusion. So we're just here to reflect.
Millions of people every year go to Graceland. Donald Trump has gone to Graceland. And when he was at Graceland, Donald wondered what no person has ever thought about before. Could he, Donald, beat up Elvis in a fight?
If anybody ever invaded America, the biggest issue would be our government trying to convince rednecks to not taxidermy the invaders.
It's funny they sent rednecks to war in the Pacific, and they did things like this.
Y'all ever seen a Chinese jackalope? The parachutes start falling and the town just gets over like the tornado siren loudspeakers telling everybody the bag limit, not to take cover.
Only allowed 4. We need enough to go around.
America, go start bombing. That's what I don't understand. How can Iranian people, when they see what America has done to Iraq, how can they think that America is going to save the day? This is what shocks me. I mean, they know that America is a mess. A mess. A mess. Oh my God. They say
It is hard to imagine anything more un-American than that. The Trump administration's immigration policy is a threat to immigrants like criminals. America is too great to fall prey to Donald Trump's anti-immigrant agenda. We need to restore basic humanity to our immigration system, and that starts with repealing the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 with our Neighbors Not Enemies Act. Together, we will end this xenophobic law once and for all.
Just don't like, I just can't take too much pressure from the Army.
What happens to an unpopular officer out in the field?
Mostly unpopular officer, from what I heard, if they mess with a grunt too much, they get shot out there.
A friend of mine, captain, kind of got shot in the back.
What was he doing? What was the captain doing to deserve being shot?
From what my friend said, he was telling them just go on through, and they were getting hit pretty bad, and he was telling them just keep on going. They said no.
America has truly changed this British man a hell of a lot. First of all, when I walked into Walmart last night and I saw this camo, instantly I had to buy it. I want to blend into the wilderness. I just love the way Americans dress, and I feel like I am dressed right now like an American. Second of all, yesterday we drove for 5 to 6 hours.
So today I want to talk about something that I think is the most important question of this entire war. Not who is winning, not how many strikes have been launched, not what Trump said yesterday or what Iran threatened today. The most important question is this: can America actually stop this war? Can it negotiate a ceasefire? Can it withdraw? Can it find a way out? And the answer, when you look at it carefully, is deeply unsettling. America is trapped. It is stuck. It cannot go forward, and it cannot go back. And today, I want to explain exactly why, step by step, in simple, easy to understand English. So let us begin. Part 1. This war has its own momentum. The first thing you need to understand about this war is that once a war like this starts, it develops its own momentum, its own logic. It stops being something that politicians and generals control, and it starts controlling them. Think about Ukraine. That war started in February 2022. And from the very first weeks, both sides knew that a negotiated settlement was possible. Both sides knew that continuing the war was causing enormous damage, enormous suffering, enormous economic cost. And yet, 4 years later, that war is still going, still grinding, still destroying lives and economies on both sides. Why? Because once a war starts, stopping it requires one side to accept something deeply painful, to accept loss, to accept humiliation, to accept terms that feel unbearable. And that is something most governments, most leaders find almost impossible to do. This war in Iran is going to follow exactly the same pattern. Neither side will concede defeat, even when it is clearly in their best interest to stop. And this war could drag on for years and years. That is not a prediction. That is a pattern, a historical pattern that repeats itself over and over again. But here's what makes this war even more complicated than Ukraine. Even if America wanted to stop, even if America decided today that it wanted a ceasefire, it cannot. Not because Iran will not negotiate, but because the terms Iran would demand would be so devastating for America that accepting them would be worse than continuing the war. Let me explain this trap very carefully. Part 2, the ceasefire trap. So let us imagine America decides it wants to negotiate a ceasefire with Iran. It picks up the phone, it reaches out through back channels, maybe through Oman or Qatar, and it says, let us talk. What does Iran say back? Iran says, fine, we will stop fighting. But here are our terms. First, America pays Iran approximately $1 trillion in reparations. $1 trillion for the destruction caused by this war, for the decades of sanctions, for the economic damage inflicted on the Iranian people. Second, and this is the critical one, America must leave the Middle East permanently. Pack up its bases, withdraw its forces, remove its military presence from the entire region forever. Because Iran's position is very simple. The only way to guarantee Iran's long-term survival is to ensure that America can never come back and do this again. Now, on the surface, some people might say, well, maybe that is not so bad. Maybe America should leave the Middle East anyway. But here is why that thinking completely misunderstands the situation. The moment America leaves the Middle East, a chain reaction begins. A chain reaction that will be catastrophic for the American economy and for American power globally. Let me walk you through this chain reaction step by step. Step 1, the GCC becomes Iran's client states. Right now, the GCC nations, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, they exist under American military protection. America guarantees their safety. America is the reason they can function as independent nations. The moment America withdraws, that protection disappears. And the only nation in the region with the military power to guarantee the safety of the GCC and to control access to the Strait of Hormuz is Iran. So the GCC nations have no choice. They become client states of Iran. They fall under Iranian influence. They have to make their peace with Tehran because without American protection, Iran is the only game in town. Step 2, the petrodollar collapses. Now here is where it gets really serious for America because the GCC is not just a collection of oil-rich desert nations. The GCC is the foundation of something called the petrodollar. And the petrodollar is the single most important mechanism keeping the American economy alive. Let me explain this simply. The GCC sells its oil in US dollars. Every barrel of oil that Saudi Arabia sells, every cubic foot of gas that Qatar exports, it is all priced and sold in US dollars. That means every nation on earth that needs Gulf energy, which is most nations, has to hold US dollars to buy it. That creates a permanent global demand for US dollars. And then the GCC takes those dollars it earns from selling oil and recycles them back into the American economy. It buys American treasury bonds. It invests in American financial markets. It funds American debt. This is the mechanism, this petrodollar recycling that allows America to function with $39 trillion in debt. $39 trillion. The American economy is essentially a Ponzi scheme. It relies on foreign nations continuously buying US dollars and US debt to keep functioning. And the petrodollar is the engine that drives that entire system. Now, the moment the GCC falls under Iranian influence, what happens to the petrodollar? It disappears. The GCC no longer has any reason to sell its oil in US dollars. It no longer has any reason to recycle its earnings back into American markets. The entire foundation of American financial power collapses. And remember, America is sitting on $39 trillion in debt. Without the petrodollar, without foreign nations continuously buying US dollars, the American economy cannot service that debt. It cannot function. The consequences would be catastrophic.
So much debt.
Step 3, Japan and South Korea
$100 million.
remilitarize. So now let us look at what happens in Asia when America withdraws from the Middle East. Japan and South Korea are watching everything that is happening right now very carefully. They're watching America's struggle in Iran. They're watching the limitations of American military power being exposed in real time. And they're asking themselves a very uncomfortable question. If America cannot win decisively against Iran, can America really protect us against China, against North Korea? Can we really trust our entire national security to a nation that is clearly overstretched and struggling? And if America then withdraws from the Middle East, that question becomes impossible to ignore. Because if America is willing to leave the Middle East when things get difficult, it might be willing to leave Asia too. So Japan and South Korea have no choice. They have to remilitarize. They have to build up their own military capabilities. They have to stop relying on American protection and start protecting themselves. Japan, which has been pacifist since World War II, is already talking about the most significant military expansion in its post-war history. That process accelerates dramatically if America withdraws from the Middle East. And here is the consequence for America. Japan and South Korea remilitarizing means they're spending their resources on their own defense instead of buying American weapons and supporting American military infrastructure. Another blow to American economic and strategic power. Step 4, Europe makes peace with Russia. And now let us look at Europe. Right now, Europe is supporting America's confrontation with Russia in Ukraine. It is paying enormous economic costs, energy costs, military costs, refugee costs to maintain that position. But Europe is watching the Middle East very carefully too. And if America withdraws from the Middle East, Europe draws one very logical conclusion. If America is withdrawing from the Middle East, America's retreating. America's pulling back. America's no longer the reliable guarantor of global security it once was. So why are we, Europe, continuing to fight America's war in Ukraine at enormous cost to ourselves? Would it not be in our best interest to negotiate a peace treaty with Russia as soon as possible, before things get even worse? And the moment Europe makes peace with Russia, the entire Western alliance system that America has built over 80 years begins to fracture. NATO loses its coherence. American strategic dominance in Europe evaporates. Another devastating blow to American global power. Step 5, the US dollar loses reserve currency status. So now let us add all this together. The petrodollar collapses. Japan and South Korea stop supporting American military infrastructure. Europe fractures from the Western alliance. What does all of this mean for the U.S. dollar? It means the U.S. dollar loses its status as the global reserve currency. Nations stop holding dollars. Nations stop buying American debt. Nations stop recycling their earnings into American markets. And America, sitting on $39 trillion in debt, has absolutely no way to service that debt without the global demand for dollars.
This country got too much blood on her hands.
The American economy, which is essentially a Ponzi scheme
dependent on foreign nations continuously buying U.S. dollars, collapses. This is why America cannot withdraw from the Middle East. This is the trap. Just like it said in the book of Revelation,
war is enormous. But the cost of leaving is even more enormous.
Pay her double.
America is stuck. It has no good options,
according to all
only
that
bad
she has
ones
done.
And worse ones. Part 3, the ground invasion trap. So if America cannot negotiate a ceasefire and cannot withdraw, what does it do? The pressure builds to escalate, to do something dramatic, to show strength. And that is where the ground invasion trap begins. Right now, there is talk of approximately 200 Marines coming in from Okinawa heading to the Middle East. And the rumor, and I want to be clear, this is a rumor, is that the intention is for these Marines to take Kharg Island. Now let me explain why Kharg Island matters. Kharg Island is where Iran exports approximately 90% of its oil.
What goes around comes around.
It is Iran's
do
economic
unto others
lifeline.
as you want others
its most
to do unto
critical
you.
Strategic asset. And the logic of taking
Judge
it
not,
seems
lest
very
ye be
compelling
judged.
on the surface. If America takes Kharg Island, it destroys Iran's ability to fund this war. It cuts off Iran's oil revenue. It brings Iran to its knees economically. And it would look fantastic on television. Trump would look strong. American morale would surge. But here's the problem. You can take Kharg Island, but you cannot hold it. Kharg Island sits very close to the Iranian coast. The moment American Marines land on that island, Iran starts hitting it with artillery, with drones, with missiles. The island becomes a killing ground. So to protect the Marines on Kharg Island, America has to take control of the nearby coastline. But now American forces are on the Iranian coast. And the Iranian coast is overlooked by the Zagros Mountains. So Iran starts hitting American positions from the mountains. So now America has to take the mountains too. And once you are in the Zagros Mountains, you are inside Iran. You are occupying Iranian territory. You are no longer conducting a limited military operation. You are in a land war inside one of the most geographically challenging countries on earth. This is mission creep. And history tells us exactly where mission creep leads. In 1965, America sent 3,000 Marines into Da Nang in Vietnam. Just 3,000 Marines. A limited mission, a defined objective. 4 years later, America had 500,000 troops in Vietnam. 500,000. From 3,000 to 5,000. He says, once you commit, once you are inside, you cannot leave. Because leaving means admitting defeat. And the sunk cost, the lives already lost, the money already spent, makes leaving psychologically and politically impossible.
This is going to be one nasty
and it is one of the most powerful and dangerous forces in all of human decision making. Once you have invested enough, once you have lost enough, you keep going. Not because going forward makes sense, but because
like Donald Trump said
like
in 2017,
were for nothing.
this is the calm before the storm. Nobody really understood what he was saying back then, but it looked like the storm is here.
Why America is actually losing this war. And now I want to tell you something that most mainstream coverage is completely hiding from you. The American military does not want to fight this war. Not because American soldiers are not brave or capable, they are. But because the American military has war gamed this conflict, tested it in simulations, run the scenarios, modeled the outcomes countless times. And every single time they run the war game, America loses.
Yeah, them files or something else, them Epstein
every single
files.
time American military planners simulate a full-scale
They rather
war
blow the
against
whole
Iran,
world up
they
before that
lose.
information
Why?
get out because
Because
it
the
got
American
a
military
lot
is built
of
for a very specific kind of warfare.
people's
It
names
is
and
built
faces
for
in there,
shock
big
and awe,
time people too.
for overwhelming air power, for precision strikes that destroy an enemy's defenses in days. That is what happened in Iraq in 2003. America achieved air supremacy in days. Rolled into Baghdad in weeks, toppled the regime in under a month. Easy, clean, fast. But Iran is completely different. Iran has been studying
See his name in there more times than everybody's name in there put together.
It has watched every American war, analyzed every American tactic, identified every American weakness, and built its entire military strategy specifically to counter what America does. Iran does not try to fight America the way America wants to fight. It does not mass its forces for America to destroy with air power. It disperses, it hides, it uses asymmetric tactics, drones, hypersonic missiles, underground facilities, proxy forces across the region. All of it specifically designed to negate America's advantages and exploit America's vulnerabilities. And nowhere is this more visible than with America's aircraft carriers, the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Gerald Ford.
Wake up, Americans. You're about to be pulled into a war with Arabs, with the Muslim world, and you're going to be made to believe that something horrible that happened to you was done by the Muslims. But it wasn't done by the Muslims. It was done by a wild card, the Israeli Mossad, that's cunning and ruthless and can carry out attacks on Americans
I
and
believe
make
they're
it
the
look
ones that
like
knocked down the
Arabs
Twin
did it.
Towers.
That's the literal definition of a false flag. And he's right that's a false flag. That's not my conspiracy theory.
Yeah, that's what's going on. You got
US Army
Christianity, you
report
got
the day
Muslims,
before, published the
and
day
you
before
got
9/11.
Judaism over there in
You can
the
call me
Middle
any
East
name
over
you
there,
want
and
to
they
call me.
supposed to all
That's
be
a US
religious,
Army
but neither one of them get along with each other.
They warned us. They were telling us what Israel is capable of doing. Wake up, Americans.
President Donald Trump, I need you.
How do you think America is doing right now? There's a lot going on in America.
The first 365 days have been pretty awesome.
There's images coming out of Minneapolis
Yes.
that are
right.
very disturbing.
I don't think you can, everything you say you can believe.
So you don't believe your eyes when you see
No,
videos
no,
of Minneapolis?
no. I love you, Donald.
Why do you love him, though?
I think he's very intelligent. That is sexy.
Oh, he's not intelligent, right? He's a dumb blonde always.
Have you ever even remodeled a bathroom? He's built buildings with...
You don't have to love Trump.
What if the United States started World War III today? First, the United States would send proposals to Canada and Mexico. As a result, a new military alliance called UMC would be born. To gain power, the UMC would mobilize its armies, storm through Central America, and push deep into South America. The region would quickly fall under U.S. control. But the world would not stay silent. Russia and China would form a counter-alliance. Together, they would be sending weapons and troops to North Korea. North Korea would seize South Korea, while China would move on Taiwan and gradually assert control over the region. Japan becomes the final piece in building a defensive wall, but before it falls, the U.S. alliance moves in, sparking a massive battle in Japan. In the Pacific Ocean, both sides unleash their most advanced weapons, warships, and fighter jets turn the region into a brutal battlefield. And with victory slipping away, Trump becomes obsessed.
Well, you know, these people caught up into Baal worship, Babylonian worship, child sacrifice, blood drinking.
South America rises to reclaim independence, and America spirals into chaos. What if the United States started World War III today?
Everybody who was a racist voted for Donald Trump. I went to Trump rallies. It felt like a Klan rally. Now, that might be extreme language. 99% of the people were white. I went to a Kamala rally, and it felt like America. It was very diverse. I saw Confederate flags at Trump rallies. I saw a lot of hatred. Those people are far more dangerous to the United States of America than a lot of the people that you're talking about that you don't want here. That's my personal opinion. I think there are bigger threats in the United States of America, people that look like you, than anybody that looks brown that comes into this country. They're willing to push aside the Epstein stuff. They're willing to push aside his behaviors, the way he talks about women and Gold Star families and POWs, and the fact that he's named thousands of times in the...
One of the most offensive things to Americans is that all this was being done and all this money was being spent while they were denying money to people that clearly needed it.
$5.5 million to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex advocacy in Uganda.
Yes, sir.
I can't believe we're arguing about this.
Like particularly victims of natural disasters like Maui.
I can't believe we're arguing about this. We're not denying life-saving care to anybody, are we?
The
Somebody
fact
say,
that they're
once you
spending all this
realize that
money
money
on
is
those
just
things, and yet they gave
paper
those people a
with
one-time
ink on
check
it,
of $770.
your life
One of the
gets
most
a whole
offensive
lot
things to
easier.
Americans is that all this
Absolutely.
was being done
Well,
and all
you
this
know,
money was being spent while they were denying
people
money
worshiping
to
these
people
dead
that clearly
presidents.
needed it.
$5.5
Got
million
dead people
to
on this money
lesbian,
and people
gay,
worshiping this
bisexual,
money, killing over
transgender,
this money,
queer,
stealing
and
over this
intersex
money, cheating over
advocacy
this
in
money,
Uganda.
Yes, sir.
I can't believe we're arguing about this.
starting wars over this money.
Victims of natural disasters like Maui.
I can't believe we're arguing about this. We're not
And
denying
all the
life-saving
presidents that's
care to
on
anybody,
the money
are we?
were
The fact that
wicked
they're
presidents.
spending all this money on those things, and yet they gave those people a one-time check of
Same blueprint.
$770. One of the most offensive things to Americans is that all this was being done and all this money was being spent.
America doesn't know how to succeed.
Like, the shit that goes on in this country is means for a fucking revolution. And it will never happen because they have stripped the nutsack from men. We have no dignity. We have no
But
purpose.
there's still a lot of Americans that are, I feel like,
She really packed her bags, made a whole speech about how America's unsafe and unlivable under Donald Trump, just to get to Ireland and say, wait, what happened, Rosie? The Wi-Fi slow? They're not feeding you enough? Stores close early? People not clapping for you anymore? Now suddenly it's, maybe I judged Trump too quickly. Not a chance, Rosie. Stand on it. You don't storm out of a house.
According to a U.S.-based Asian diplomat who was granted anonymity, apparently Vietnam, Bangladesh, and the Philippines could run out of oil supplies in approximately 3 weeks if the disruptions in the Middle East are not resolved or some new inflows or resolutions are put in place. This is according to a recent Politico article that was published on the 23rd of March of 2026. Now, oil prices have surged pretty dramatically with fears of $150 to $200 per barrel in some extreme scenarios. It has caused shortages, rationing, long lines at fuel stations, and emergency measures in some of the affected countries. Many Asian nations, especially import-dependent ones without large stockpiles, face a lot of risk. And apparently this anonymous
Yeah, I
diplomat
heard
noted that
BlackRock on a
rising
lot of
regional
things. Somebody say
prices could drag
BlackRock owns
economies into
the world.
recession, erode trust in leadership,
Yeah, they own
and
a
create
lot of-
opportunities for China
A lot
to
of
step
things
in.
I didn't
Now,
know
the
about.
Philippines is highly vulnerable because they import nearly all of their oil needs,
I
including
think
around 95
longest
to
people
96%.
is
Mostly
aware
from
of
the
these
Gulf, and they
things,
lack
it's
a
hard for them to
significant
get away
government
with anything they
strategic
want to do.
reserve. And the
That's
recent
why we need
reports
to
coming out
bring
of the
awareness
Philippines
to the
describe
public
it as
because
having approximately 3
these
weeks
news
until
media
they are
outlets
empty.
ain't getting
Now,
the
Vietnam
job
also
done.
relies on imports for most of their needs as well, with around 85% coming from the Gulf and Kuwait, with domestic production declining. National reserves are pretty thin for Vietnam, which are equivalent to about 9 days of net imports plus some commercial stocks for approximately 20 days total. The government has actually urged work from home policies and public transport use to reduce people using fossil fuels temporarily. And prices out there have jumped 20 to 40% with risks of aviation fuel shortages. And then over to Bangladesh, imports are around 95% of its oil and gas, with limited reserves, estimating that they could last longer than the others, around 100 days in some analyses.
Why did North Korea attack the USA over a tree? In 1976, North Korea lost its mind. They attacked U.S. soldiers for trimming the wrong tree on its border. It ended with the loss of 2 American soldiers. But what shocked the world was America's response. The USA immediately went into DEFCON 3, and North Koreans went to the find-out stage. Here is where it gets insane. The USA sent a new tree-cutting team into the zone. This time it was escorted by 64 Special Forces soldiers. But there is more. The USA, by law, could not bring heavy gear there, so they brought their entire military above the zone. 40 fully loaded USA helis started circling above. 20 B-52 bombers and 100 USA fighter jets patrolled the sky. For some reason, North Koreans did not show up for this tree cutting. The tree was removed from existence, roots included. But the craziest part, later a spy report said the whole mission blew their effing minds. Why did
Oh, Joe Biden said this. Oh, Joe Biden said that. Listen to the way Donald Trump is talking right now on Air Force One. His brain has turned to mush.
That's a lot of money, but it's nothing compared to the value of peace. Peace is so destructive for everyone, even countries that aren't involved. I mean, it's so destructive for everybody when you have wars.
Can you tell us who your Fed pick is, sir? Can you tell us who your Fed...
Oh.
The president forgot that he has already endorsed a candidate to fill Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat in Georgia because he has dementia. I'm a physical therapist with a doctorate in my field and 14 years experience working in home health care, treating geriatric patients with dementia, like this guy.
Your trip to Rome, Georgia on Thursday, the trip to Marjorie Taylor Greene's old district. Well, we have a lot of people that want to take Marjorie Taylor Greene's place. And many, many candidates that I have to choose from. And they say whoever I endorse is going to win. But we have a lot of good candidates who want to take her place.
He endorsed Clay Fuller 2 weeks ago to fill that seat.
Who has more gold, the USA or these countries? USA or South Africa? I'm going to assume it's the USA just based on the size. That's how I'm going to go about this. Completely fair, the USA is correct. South Africa has $20 billion worth of gold. That's a lot of gold. The USA or Brazil? Again, I want to go based on size. I feel like they're close in size, so probably close in gold, but I'm going to lean USA. USA is correct. Brazil has $27 billion worth of gold. It's still a lot of gold. The USA or India? India feels bigger than the USA, but I'm going to go USA. I don't know why. No, I'm going to go India because I feel like they make their structures out of gold sometimes. You'd be incorrect. It's the USA. India has $140 million worth of gold. USA.
Most Americans don't even know the capital of Canada. Canada does not appear on their radar, doesn't figure in their thoughts. But you described it as probably, quote, probably the richest country in the world. I think that's objectively true. And yet Canada is not a rich country. In fact, it's getting poorer. Its life expectancy is declining. Its GDP is declining. And that's on purpose. The nation of Canada has been suppressed on purpose. Its population is being killed off by the state through its assisted suicide program, and its population is changing through mass immigration against the will of...
A desperate Donald Trump took to Truth Social this morning to say, we're doing it. We're getting what we want. I'm not going to have to start bombing Iran more and bombing their energy facilities. Now, let me first remind you, at the start of the weekend, Trump posted, quote, if Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, the USA will hit and obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first.
That was a bluff.
We were getting to that point. This morning, stock market futures were down. It was looking like we would have another massive stock market crash today. But then this morning, at 7:23 a.m. Eastern, a perfect time to post if you want to juice the stock market, Trump takes to Truth Social again and posts, quote, I am pleased, that's a typo, I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had over the last 2 days very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. Based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue. It's the wrong witch, by the way. You put it like the Wicked Witch of the East. Which will continue throughout the week. I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Wow. Well, that is a very interesting typo-laden post. Sounds pretty good. This does exactly what Trump intended it to do. It spikes stock market futures.
And that's all they doing, man.
Immediately jumping more than 900
Manipulating that stock market.
Right when Trump
Manipulating
announces
bitcoins.
this, oil futures immediately declining 10% in an instant. The only little problem is that Iran completely denies this. Iran says it never happened. Iran says it's not true. There have been no talks at all. The Iranian regime believes
Somebody
Trump
lying.
posted this falsely simply to try to juice the stock market and reduce energy prices. So what we have here is Taco Trump. Trump always chickens out, realizing that he is.
Welcome to this special episode of iHip News. I am joined by the best-selling author of Strongman, Ruth Ben-Ghiat, a historian. Ruth, welcome to iHip News.
Thank you.
I want to cover some very important information regarding what's happening in the United States, because all of this, and you say this a lot, is new for the United States to have this form of government. And I read your Lucid Substack, and listener, you should read it as well. Because when you're armed with information, when the government is abusing its citizens, it can be cathartic and therapeutic to know what is going on. And Ruth, you speak a lot about the government. The Trump regime is intentionally weakening the government. Explain to my listeners, why would you get power and then want to weaken the government that you operate within?
Yeah, this is one of the most tragic aspects of what's going on now, and I was calling it out in Lucid, like in February, in March. You have somebody who's a head of state who really long ago internalized Kremlin
Somebody say
and
Trump
other
2028.
authoritarian views of the world
They
that
said
see democracy as
Trump
a
the
problem.
last president.
And then the question is, why would you kneecap your own country?
Right.
And authoritarians do that so they can more easily grab control. If you have an impoverished, diseased population, they're less likely to be protesting in the streets. And if you care about profiting off of governance and you really don't care about the people you are supposed to be governing. And remember, President Trump did the AI video of him dumping excrement on American people and protesters. That kind of shows you the mentality. And they're all like this. They despise the people they govern.
So just how they feel
And so
about the people.
sometimes the bad outcome economically is over time, and it's a result of incompetence. Here, everything has happened so fast, and taking away vaccines, doing things that will increase the likelihood of mass disease, things like that.
This is now the backbone of the American economy, and this is the guy who runs it, and it's not good. OnlyFans is by far the most profitable company in America. The company generates $156 million per employee. Compare that with all these other companies that we think of as powerhouses like NVIDIA, the chip maker, or Alphabet, Google, Walt Disney, Walmart. Not even close. And so just think about the implications. What happens to society when we have an economy built off of getting normal people to do and consume adult content? Well, first we get mass loneliness, where men are dropping thousands of dollars on OnlyFans to just feel some kind of human connection with women. And on the other side, the girls are getting their soul sucked out of them. This particular creator says that she feels dead inside, doesn't feel any attraction to men anymore. Yeah, men and women don't want to have actual intimacy anymore. Look at the numbers. Only 37% of adults are having sex weekly or more, compared to 55% in 1990. In fact, the lack of social connection is more deadly than smoking 15 cigarettes a day, or drinking, or not working out, being obese, and much, much worse than air pollution. And just to top it all off, the number one donor of AIPAC is the CEO of OnlyFans. Okay, Leonid Radvinsky, the billionaire owner of OnlyFans, according to internal documents, he and his wife pledged $11 million to AIPAC, the most of anyone listed.
I mean, is Iran a bigger threat, or is OnlyFans?
That is a great question, Tucker. You guys let me know what you think.
Who is saying that she would release this to try to boost her standing with the president? Who has said that?
Well, the president has publicly undermined her when it came to Iran. He said she was wrong. He told me that she didn't know what she was talking about. That was on Air Force One on camera.
The only people who are suggesting that the director of national intelligence would release evidence to try to boost her standing with the president are the people in this room who constantly try to sow distrust and chaos amongst the president's
How to
cabinet.
say,
And it is not working.
really? What about Biden and Hillary Clinton?
Today as he did yesterday.
I might follow up on what you
The left are getting pretty desperate.
I have a follow-up on something you just said, though, Caroline. That's Caitlin. I'm not taking your follow-up. Philip, go ahead. I have called on you. That's what these heads up was complaining that it was front page news about these 6 service members who were killed. That's not what the secretary said, Caitlin, and that's
That's
not
what
what
I
the
don't
secretary
understand. They
meant.
talk about the left wing and the right wing,
There is not. We've never had
but
a
it's one
secretary of
bird
defense who
with
cares
2 wings. Same bird, same system. I got one body. I have a left arm and I got a right arm, but it's both of them attached to the same body.
That's a fact. Listen to me. Especially you and especially CNN.
Biden and Clinton, what are you talking about?
If you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President.
Ou pendant pèlerinage sous ça, fait effort pour pas jamais faire mon mal.
But if you're not happy, you can leave. But if
you ask any of these Democrats who hate America why they won't leave, they'll give you a myriad of reasons of why they're still here, and they're all valid. Financial reasons, health concerns, friends, family, education, whatever it is. Valid concern. And what that tells me is there's a benefit to living in the United States. This country is providing you a benefit. And when that benefit outweighs the risk of leaving, it becomes of value. This country holds value to you. And you can't hate something that holds value to you. So the real question is, do you actually hate this country, or do you hate those parts of yourself that are preventing you from leaving?
A desperate Donald Trump took to Truth Social this morning to say, we're doing it. We're getting what we want. I'm not going to have to start bombing Iran more and bombing their energy facilities. Now, let me first remind you, at the start of the weekend, Trump posted, quote,
Yeah, I heard about Agenda 21.
fully open without
What about this Project 2025 that nobody thought was
48
real?
hours from this exact point in time, the USA
I think
will
it's the
hit
same
and
thing with a
obliterate
different name.
their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first. Well, we were getting to that point. This morning, stock market futures were down. It was looking like we would have another massive stock market crash today. But then this morning,
I have some late breaking news as 5 members of Team USA hockey absolutely declined to meet Mr. Donald Trump at his State of the Union. This is the hockey team in the Olympics who just won gold, and Kash Patel was over there celebrating with him. But yes, 5 members just said, nope, we're not going, and we don't know why, but they're not going. I have the list of the 5 people who are not going. First is Block Nelson, Jake Lacombe, Jake Ottinger.
Everyone's talking about Iran, but no one's talking about what happens if Iran wins. Because if they do, it's the end of 5 different eras all at once. Era 1, the unipolar moment. Since 1991, America's been the main superpower of the world. If Iran wins, that era is over. Russia, China, and Iran wouldn't just be challengers anymore, they would be the new power structure. Era 2, the petrodollar. Since 1974, every barrel of oil has been priced in US dollars. The US made a deal with Saudi Arabia saying if you price your oil in dollars, we'll protect you with our military. If Iran wins, Saudi Arabia's security guarantees from the United States looks like a joke. Era 3, the post-war order. The entire global system built after World War II, like NATO, the UN, all of it runs on American dollars and American credibility. If Iran wins, both of them disappear and the post-war order ends. Era 4, the Union. This one's even deeper. It's America itself. America today is an extremely divided country. Political polarization is at civil war levels, and the only thing holding it together is a shared economy. If the dollar crashes and cost of living spikes, that one link goes away. Era 5, the Western era. This one actually goes back to 1492. We've had 500 years of Western powers dominating Asian powers. Therefore, if Iran wins, 5 different eras would end all at once, and follow for more knowledge on the changing world order.
I asked, will the rest of the world ever forgive us for electing someone like Donald Trump? Japan. Not a chance. Trump is just the symptom. From now on, any long-term deal with the United States needs a moron premium in case you elect someone even worse in the future.
When you really think about it, 250 years is a nice round number to end on. What this person is referencing is a popular political theory coined by Sir John Glove in 1978 that says great empires have a predictable, roughly 250-year lifespan. I want you to guess how old the United States is.
About 250. 250?
Time's up.
In his research, Sir Glubb says that there are 6 stages of empire: the age of pioneers, the age of conquest, the age of commerce, the age of affluence, the age of intellect, and where we would be right now, the age of decadence and decline that is characterized by excessive consumption, selfishness, celebrity obsession, and inequality leading to collapse. Tell me that doesn't sound familiar. In his
The quality of life in America is
he says there are
deteriorating.
bread and circuses. In the final stages, focus shifts to entertainment, luxury, and celebrity culture while civic responsibility vanishes. When you think about it, it makes complete sense for the United States to
What about
collapse.
Rome and Greece?
No sins have been paid for.
Yeah,
Everything
America
is
is like
no
Rome and
transgressions
Greece.
have been properly adjudicated. As of right now,
It's
in
a
my opinion, I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel.
resurrection
However,
of Rome and
I
Greece.
want to leave you with this question. What does collapse mean? Because I don't think that collapse means that we all have to die. I think collapse means that we, if we really want to, can birth something new.
Yes.
When you really think about it,
I don't think I support the president anymore. I mean, these gas prices are so dang high. Really. So this is the breaking point for your support. Yep, this is it. So it wasn't the allegations of diddling kids. Nope. It wasn't the hiding of evidence that likely proves he's part of a global ring. Nope. It wasn't starting a war in the Middle East based on very shaky justification after he said he wouldn't do exactly that. Nope. It wasn't directly destroying our international
Somebody said
relationships,
we
which
should
will
last
have
a couple
long-standing
of
economic
thousand
consequences.
years.
Nope. It wasn't funding
I
legally
don't
gray
know.
immigration enforcement that directly led to the death of civilians while simultaneously pardoning known traffickers and cartel members. Nope. It wasn't the constant beratement of women, minorities, or disabled people.
You
Nope. It
got
wasn't
these
starting trade wars
madmans
with
got their
illegally
hands on the
terrorists.
button
Nope.
ready to
It
push a
wasn't gutting
nuclear
federal
bomb
agencies
button.
that are meant to keep the public safe and healthy, like the EPA or the Department of Education. Nope. It wasn't filling incredibly important governmental positions with wildly unqualified people. Nope. It wasn't the clear and obvious cognitive decline that's been happening in real time. Nope. It wasn't his history as a failed businessman, his inability to tell the truth, or his blatant contradictions. Nope. So the only thing that leads you to believe he might not be good for this country is the price of gas went up. Yep. I mean, after all, that is the one that directly affects me. Every single thing I just mentioned does and or will affect you. And we can...
Top 10 worst counties to live in U.S.
Breaking news in the United States. President Donald Trump has finally reached his breaking point, and this time the shock didn't come from Congress or a political rival, but from somewhere he never expected, the U.S. military. General Randy A. George, Chief of Staff of the Army, appeared live on national television and made a statement that stunned the nation. He declared that the president poses a direct threat to national security. This is not just a declining politician, he said. This is a clear danger to America's institutions and stability. The general accused Trump of favoring billionaire allies through shady military contracts, weakening the armed forces from within, and diverting resources while soldiers faced severe shortages. He also claimed there is evidence the president broke the law, colluded with foreign powers, and leaked classified military strategies. Then came the bombshell. This man must be removed from office immediately. According to George, all related evidence has already been handed over to the FBI. Want the full story? Share this report and watch part 2.
Name 3 countries with...
The USA is powerful because...
How do you think America is doing right now? There's a lot going on.
The reason his decline is being allowed to continue is because powerful people are benefiting from it. Stephen Miller, Susie Wells, Peter Thiel, the architects of Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation, Turning Point USA, Elon Musk, and so many other names we didn't elect. Names with no accountability to the public. They feed Trump what he wants to hear, keep him calm enough to sign what they need signed, and then run the country through him like a puppet. And the more Trump checks out, the easier it becomes for the regime to centralize power in the shadows. The man who once prided himself on firing people face to face is now asleep in meetings while others decide the fate of millions. The reason his decline is being allowed.
Talking about Sleepy Joe.
You're not leaving without saying goodbye, are you?
How did the American dream die? How did the middle class die? I'm going to tell you, it started in the 1980s with trickle-down economics that did not work. They decided to give tax cuts to the rich and corporations, saying that money would trickle down. It didn't. It just made the rich richer. Then we greenlit stock buybacks. So instead of, when the productivity was going up, instead of giving workers more money, they just bought back their stocks so the shareholders could make profit and the executives could get bonuses. Then we had leverage buyouts, and the government didn't regulate leverage buyouts, and that was the start of private equity basically buying up everything so that they could make more money. Then we moved away from pensions to 401ks, which essentially just took the responsibility and accountability of the company money to take care of their workers with the retirement and put it on to individuals, but we were never taught economics in high school, so how the fuck are we supposed to know about compound interest and investing? But they said the 401k was better than the pension when it wasn't. Then they started shipping our jobs overseas, building the middle class of other countries so that they could make more profit, destroying the middle class here. Then we started ramping up the borrowing money and getting into debt as a country, which devalues our dollar. And in 2008, we had predatory lending, which crashed the housing market, f***ed over.
Unlike the Biden White House, there is no attempt to cover up the cognitive decline of the chief executive. Trump is losing it. His brain is like leaking out of his ears, and I am here for it. It is awesome. He's somehow getting dumber and funnier and fun. Unlike the Biden White House, there is
top 10 fastest dying.
So Bitcoin dropped below 100,000.
Does this sound real to you?
even if the White House offered to.
So, is it a British problem or an Indian problem? No, I think it is a British problem. First of all, because there is so much. Started. Do you think Trump can make America great again?
Of course. Do you think Trump is making America great or worse?
If you think he is doing good, you are as dumb as he is.
Do you think Trump can make America great again?
Pass. Do you think Trump is making America great again?
Yes. Do you think Trump can make America great again? No.
Do you think Trump is making America great or worse?
Some people hate him, but he's the only one actually fixing things. Do you think Trump can make America great again? Never happened.
How do you think Trump is doing in office?
I think he's an asshole.
Do you guys think Trump can make America great again?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Do you think Trump can make America great again?
Overall, I guess he's doing a good job.
Do you think Trump can make America great again?
Absolutely.
Do you think Trump can make America great again?
Yes, I think he's smart. Do you think Trump is making America great or worse?
Do you have like a waiver for me to sign?
Do you think Trump can make America great again?
Of course, he already started.
Do you think Trump can make America great again?
Of course. Do you think Trump is making America great or worse?
If stole that shit, that's what I do, nigga. Fuck, nigga, I stole that shit, and I stole it.
Over elections in America isn't just about one policy or one law. It's about how the rules of the system are set in the first place. In 2020, the battle happened after the votes were counted, with attempts to overturn the result. Now the focus is shifting to before the votes are even cast. Who votes, how they vote, and what rules govern the process. Those choices shape every election that follows. And when political leaders openly describe those rules as tools to secure victory, people should pay attention. Elections are supposed to be uncertain. No party owns them, and no politician is guaranteed power. The outcome is determined by voters. That uncertainty is what keeps the system honest. It's what forces leaders to persuade the public instead of manipulating.
Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files? Yes or no?
Why don't you try spelling it out?
Yes
if you're gonna
or no,
Use
Director?
the alphabet.
Yes or no?
No, A, B, C.
Director,
D, E, F.
it sounds like you don't want to tell us.
Why is this something that the U.S. should be involved in? Why are we allied with Israel?
He says
Why is
because they chant death to America.
they chant death to America. I went to Iran in 2014. I was sitting at a rally. These young guys were chanting death to America. I had a minder. I said, what are they saying? They're saying death to America. They finished the chant, and two young men came over and said, are you American? I said, yes. We want to welcome you to our country. We love American culture and love American movies. They wanted to talk about all these things. Iran is the most Western nation in the whole Middle East. Why?
You American people worry too much about the China economy.
Every time when you start to worry about China, China goes better. Every time you think China's a problem, we'll get better. But there's a big difference between American consumption, because people say, well, the economy is bad, but China consumption will be good low. No, totally different. You Americans love to spend tomorrow's money, and the other people's money maybe, or maybe the Kurds' money. We Chinese love to save money. We are probably the largest country, the safe deposit in the whole world that people, because we've been poor for so many years. When we make money, we put it in the banks because.
I'm pleased to announce that on May 17th, 2026, that we're inviting Americans from all across the country to come together on our national mall to pray, to give thanks, and we are going to do something that everyone said,
Have you seen this video? Watch this one.
I'm pleased to announce that on May 17th, 2026, that we're inviting Americans from all across the country to come together on our national mall to pray, to give thanks, and we are going to do something that everyone said, that's tough. We're going to rededicate America as one nation under God.
Have you seen this video? Watch this one.
Wants Sharia law? All the Muslims say, me. Okay, well, who wants to go live in Iraq? Nah.
So today I want to talk about something that I think is the most important question of this.
Can't believe this is happening.
Sharia law will destroy America. Every America, this is the warning to you from the future. My country, Egypt, was Christian, and Islam came and conquered it. And if Sharia law takes over America, I'm warning you right now, your freedom will be taken from you. If Sharia law takes over America, your churches will be burnt, your daughters will be raped. And you might think I'm being crazy and I'm being extreme. This is what every naive country thought when it invited Islam.
You hate America? Keep scrolling. If you're proud AF to be American like I am, this is for you. America has always been the greatest nation on this planet. Some people don't get why we're great. Listen up. Americans, you're smart, you're strong, You don't bow down. You don't back down. You stand united, and you fear nothing. That's what made this country what it is, the greatest country under God. I love America. I love you all.
A federal judge has slammed Pam Bondi and her Department of Justice for committing what's basically being described as a rookie mistake. And that rookie mistake happens to be they didn't give one of the alleged suspects
then you add more to it. This is dilution. The principle is so simple that a child can understand. And you can create this little science project at home. Sorry, you can have your tea back. The principle is called dilution. And when you print $5 trillion and you put it into the economy, you have diluted the value of the money.
In the United States, there's been a well-publicized feud between the President of the United States and the Chairman of the Federal Reserve Board. And in effect, the President is saying, I should have more influence on what interest rates are. Would it ever occur to the Chancellor of the Exchequer to tell the head of the Bank of England, lower interest rates, or you just don't do that in this?
I don't know why this is happening to me.
Could it be because of who you voted for, Andy?
I don't want to talk about that.
Shall we sing about it, Andy?
No, I don't want to do that either.
When you vote for a big bad fascist, don't be mad when
The economy crashes. I don't know why this is happening.
Are you prepared for a recession? Because that's what it sounds like Trump is talking about.
I don't expect the deficit to be nearly as bad as some of these numbers that are being tossed
What
around.
about GDP growth? Do you think we're going to see that short-term pain?
As I said, it's a mistake. It's a mistake to focus exclusively on something like.
Well, I'm not going to discuss. Why would you sit up here and go?
When you think about interest rates,